Welcome to this special edition of the PowerCat Questions Podcast, and we're on video also here in the WTC Gig Powered Studios. Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowercat, Hank Jacobs, director of football operations, and Taylor Braet,
The Brat.
director of football recruiting. You guys got director titles. That's badass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Whew.
It's a little scary.
Do you have like a little clique at work where you say, "Oh, you're not a director"? I don't.
Yeah, like a coffee club kind
That's
of.
good.
Yeah, totally.
So this is a bastardized version, if I want to use that word, of our questions podcast, where we just take questions from our subscribers at GoPowercat, and these are for you. You guys take them as who wants them. Both. You can talk at the same time. We have very smart listeners. While the staff, this is from K-Ned, one of our veterans. While the staff had an entire year to recruit this time, isn't recruiting often a 2-year cycle in terms of building relationships? If so, how far behind the 8 ball have the staff been, even with the 2020 class, in getting kids to listen?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-year. I mean, you're always building, and the relationship's the most important thing you can do. So, we missed out on some of the junior recruiting for this class, because this staff wasn't here yet. So, with what we can do now, already ahead, I mean, it's going to help us definitely in the future with 2021 and 2022.
And really for fans, Hank, it kind of only showed up with Kansas kids. I mean, there were some visible Kansas kids that had built up relationships that was hard to catch up on.
It was a great year in Kansas high school football as far as recruiting goes. And we got some really, really good players from the state of Kansas. I mean, Nate Malek's a good football player. Cody Stuffelbean's a good football player. Taylor Warner, I mean, they came to camp. They kicked some people's asses. I mean, it was impressive. It's just you miss out on a half a year. We got hired in December of last year, and we had to catch up. And I don't want to make excuses, but that is difficult. So
Yeah.
And then you're trying to just figure out what you just got, what they're getting, and what we got to finish just before February, let alone work ahead.
Plus, we're slotting different scholarships and positions and trying to figure out what we need to recruit, trying to figure out our own roster and go after the kids that we want to try to get.
Following up, he's got a second question here about Kansas kids. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. I look at kids like Stuffelbean and Warner and think these kids fall through the cracks because they don't get as many games. There's not much film on them. You don't have that much experience with them, and then you see them in person and go, oh, God, this kid could play.
Yep, that's why that camp is so important. And I always – the hard part is when you get emails later from kids in Kansas, and it's like, why didn't you come to camp?
Mm-hmm.
Now you want me to recruit you. You got okay film, but I'd like to see more. I'd like to see how you take coaching. Do you hustle between drills? That's why with the Kansas Cats, you got to come to camp. And someone play multiple sports, like Cody Stuffelbean. He's an unbelievable basketball player, a good track thrower. I mean, that helps with their development.
Mm-hmm. And Coach Kleiman's a lot like Coach Snyder in the fact that you're a multi-sport guy. You get to show them things that you don't maybe see just off football film.
The kids are just more well-rounded, and they can figure out different situations and different challenges, and have been in more competitive situations if they are 3-sport athletes as opposed to just training all the time. And we do look for that. So
Incredible Gulk wants to know, was there a recruiting battle that kind of went down to the wire, one that was intense that you really weren't certain about? It seemed like things went as planned.
Yeah, I thought they went pretty well. I thought T. Denson got stressful at times because I don't know. In my time, we haven't had a kid take 5 official visits or take all 4 of them before us leaving us the last official visit, knowing that you have to knock this visit out of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And, even though he said when he was leaving, it's going to happen, you just don't know. You just don't know. I mean, it's that was the battle, a great battle this year, and I'm glad we came out. I mean, he had TCU. I mean, he went and saw some places. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was the competition, and he chose to come to Kansas, come to Kansas State. And
there's a lot of battles that happen right away. Just because of the way that we do our process. It's a battle to get them interested right away, especially for kids out of state. And once we do and we get them here, that's the initial part of it. Then we can show them what we're made of and what Kansas State's all about.
Williams Wingman wants to know this. Some fans are under the impression that you needed more help at receiver than you got in this class. Can you explain your thought process on putting
I think the staff was pretty excited with the underclassmen at that position. With Keenan Garber, some of those guys, Malik when healthy. I think Sebastian did a good job stepping up this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. And, I think that – and the kid we got committed today, Jalen Travis, he's got unbelievable hands. He catches every single ball that was thrown to him at camp. I mean, he did not have a drop. And he was a kid that went out and competed. So I think it says that, hey, we're confident in what we got to.
And we hit on some walk-ons, and you're limited to 85 scholarships.
Right.
You know, Phillip Brooks is going to be a good football player. He's a redshirt freshman. Joaquin Gill is a junior. He's coming back. Landry Weber, he's a sophomore. He's coming back. Taylor and the previous staff did a great job of recruiting those walk-on kids. And, you know, wide receiver, you take another one in this class, what are you taking away from?
Right.
Because it's a numbers game, and there's challenges in that.
And you guys really pushed the numbers today. You left a few openings for later on, but you're, for the most part, done until something comes along.
Exactly.
That's really good.
Yeah.
The .2, what needs to happen for a staff such as you to lock down the Kansas borders a little bit better and maybe the metro area? Is that possible?
I think a full recruiting cycle is going to help us.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't like to make excuses about last year, but I mean, the more time you have to talk to these kids and hit them up every day, write handwritten letters to them, make them graphics. I mean, we're constantly bombarding them, and it's just going to be, we get another half year to
keep building
those relationships and build the relationships in those high schools that are very important in the state.
You mentioned the graphics; they were incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
our graphics guy is awesome.
Bo Savage.
Great. The theme today was just amazing.
Bo, he was the leading rusher in Kansas football history or something.
Leading touchdown passes in the state of Kansas.
Hell of a high school athlete.
From 8-man football.
I had no idea when we hired him, but another Kansas kid.
Dad was also a coach, a guy who loves football. And I think, you hire these guys who love football and love Kansas State, it helps because he's got more drive and he's driven to see this place succeed.
That's awesome.
He killed it today. I mean, he did a great job.
Not a Legos guy. I don't have kids, but I appreciate it.
No,
I think Legos, they appeal to everybody. That's
they do.
I think all the kids liked it.
Let go. Let's go. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. The building blocks, we're building something, I mean, there's a lot of different little fun things.
In that vein, Snarecat 3 asks, is there going to be further expansion to the recruiting staff? I mean, are you going to bring in some more peoples?
Yeah, we will.
What type of things will they be handling?
Director of player personnel, some scouting stuff. Taylor needs some help just with recruiting kids. Now Taylor does a phenomenal job. We need a little bit more help, and we'll look at that down the road. And
what is the process? Wildcat Pilot 8817. What's the process for kind of identifying the talent? Did you just go through so much film, your eyes bulge up?
You do. I mean, you go through emails, you go through recruiting services, you go from hearsay, you go from coaches, what they find on the road. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to find a kid or see a kid. You're always open to look at every kid. I mean, and then after that, you get it in front of a position coach. You look up how things are going. You got to track down, all the background information you can too before you make a jump. Yeah. So it's a lot of wheels are spinning once you find a guy or all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of wheels spinning that you don't really care for either. I mean, that's not the fun part of recruiting.
But for you guys, those camps, those clinics you go to, the satellite camps, I don't want to get into what you did before and what you do now, but that has really become a thing in recruiting.
Yeah,
and you guys are using the camps a little bit differently than have been in the past.
Yeah, we went out and really got after the satellite camps this year. I mean, we were from Georgia to St. Louis to California, Texas. I mean, we did a really good job. Chicago, we were active at all those camps, and that's all information, and you get to put eyes on guys and guys that you might not get here. So, I mean, that's why that's a pretty important deal.
It's a chance to say yes or no going into a camp as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we want to get these kids here because Kansas State has so many great things to offer for a student athlete, and for them to, we can showcase that in one of our camps in Manhattan, but you still have to, and some of those times you're going to those satellite camps to get a kid to your camp.
So it's very interesting. Yo Mama, one of my favorite names on this site, wants to know this: have the recruits and their families' attitudes towards K-State changed during the course of the season as your success built? Did they get a little more receptive, or you guys were done so early with a big chunk of this?
I mean, I think all of our committee, gosh, anytime you win, it helps. But it's the relationship that starts the recruiting process. But I mean, it was all these kids have really been interested, especially local kids more and more as we go along. So
yeah, it's just it gives us a better chance. I think kids like to win. They like to see us win, and it helps us get them to campus. I think, especially for the 20.
Yeah, and the more you win, the bigger your brand gets too. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the more you get seen, the more media talks about you. I mean, that's the important part of it.
Well, you mentioned the junior college guys, and you had the surge here at the end with 3 of them really kind of jumping on board. Obviously, winning helps. But also, Coach Kleiman is not a junior college guy in terms of recruiting. 5 might have been a little more than I expected, but were they just at needs that were too good to pass?
You know, we had 27 graduating seniors, 5 linemen, 3 D tackles, 2 corners. I mean, that's kind of that get guys in, let's build depth. I mean, we rotate the D-line. So, I mean, you're getting in, you're helping the guys you already got, you're giving them breathers, in this league, it's a DB and DN league. I mean, you can't have enough DN true rushers and DBs that can cover some of these wideouts. So it was important to get out there and just at least build our depth and competition.
PowerCat Ryan, he wanted to know about the camps and recruiting. He also wants to know, is there one kid that jumps out to you in terms of personality that the fans are going to love? Is there a real...
We got a bunch of characters in this class. Jay Harris is...
I was going to say, Jay and Tripper are hilarious. I'm on this group Snapchat with all these guys, and I mean, it's constant funny, fun stuff.
Yeah. Whit Mitchum is, I think he's a little bit more outgoing than people would think. Deuce Vaughn's such a great kid. Obviously, Derek Newton.
Yeah.
A little bit wild.
You just said something. You're on this group Snapchat with these kids. Social media, we talk about
TJ Smith.
You guys being able to follow kids and get to know them a little bit and find out their faults, how they handle themselves.
No doubt. I mean, it's kind of a sight when a kid won't add you back.
Yeah.
And I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not your typical adult, but.
Oh, no, I think we're safe in that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Safe.
But, I mean, you get to see a lot about the kids, and, you know, you get to see things, too, that, like you said, warn you. You get to see things, too, that you're like, man, this kid really got some stuff to him that you really appreciate.
The second side of that, though, is you can put them together then in social media and start forming the bond where it's harder for a kid to peel off. He's already got a fraternity going with these guys.
He's already built a bond within his own teammates. They're matching up roommates. You got a lot of things working in that direction that you want.
It's really cool. ContraCat noticed that every recruit was posing the all whites. Did the kids really like them, or was that just a choice you guys made?
We gave them every opportunity to put on whatever they wanted, and that was the choice.
They're sweet. The all whites are sweet.
It does look clean. I mean, it looks, especially when it's all the purple background. We put them in the tunnel. We do those things.
It's something different too. I mean, kids like to be different.
Of course they do. So do I. Her Dad's Joe. Let's wrap it up with this. How big of an advantage was this cycle, Hank, compared to the last cycle where you guys were just in scramble mode?
Yeah, just more time, and we were still figuring out our roster last year. That was probably the most challenging thing. Where
you didn't know what you really needed.
Where are we good at? Where do we need to go out and get kids right away?
Our roster figuring out practice times, and we were figuring out a lot of things.
Yeah, just more time to evaluate kids and get to know them, and them to get to know us, get them on campus. I mean, it's been huge that more time, and I'm looking forward to having a full cycle with the class of 21.
Yeah, I mean,
and 22 and 23 and
right. That's when it really
just kind of
builds
what you
steam.
want to keep going. I mean, it doesn't stop. Like today when we go home, I mean, I'll still be tweeting and snapping kids. I mean, it just never stops.
It's on to 21 and 22 or 22 and whatever.
Not 22
it is.
yet, 21.
Yeah. So it's just amazing. Well, guys, thank you very much.
No, thanks for having us.
Yep. And we, if you don't know, we will also be doing something in our podcast studio. So we'll have a separate podcast. This will also appear in podcast. They're going to be everywhere. We'll talk to you later.
Cats.